Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something literally all of us have felt, even if we don't always want to admit it. We're looking at why things like a delayed text reply, a slightly cold tone of voice, or just not getting reassurance from someone you care about can absolutely derail your mood. And more importantly, we're going to look at the psychology behind why this doesn't make you weak or dramatic. It just makes you human.
All right, part 1. The weight of a message. Let's start by looking at some incredibly common behaviors we experience in our everyday digital lives. I guarantee you're going to recognize yourself in at least one of these. Have you ever felt your mood just instantly tank because someone left you on read? Or maybe you felt a real sting when a friend's tone seemed just a little bit off or distant. Then there's that heavy, sinking feeling when you open up and you just don't get the reassurance you were hoping for. And of course, my personal favorite, pretending you totally don't care what anyone thinks. We all do it. But why do these little moments hold so much power over us?
See, we usually just brush these reactions off as insecurity or neediness. But actually, for a lot of people, getting validation isn't just a fun little bonus or a nice-to-have compliment. It feels like emotional oxygen. Without it, you basically feel like you're suffocating in an empty room.
Section 2. Why does it matter? This brings us to the psychological core of our explainer today.
So, why does validation sometimes feel emotionally necessary? Why does an unanswered text feel less like a minor glitch in your day and more like an actual threat to your emotional survival? Why do we obsessively check our screens just to get a tiny drop of approval? That leads us right into Section 3, the biology of belonging. To really get this, we have to look at how our nervous systems were built and wired over time. It all goes back to our ancient human history. Back then, your survival depended entirely on belonging to the group. Rejection wasn't just a bummer, it meant isolation and genuine physical danger. Fast forward to your childhood years, and that's where your personal emotional map gets drawn. If your emotions were dismissed or if you only got affection when you achieved something, that fundamentally altered your baseline. So now in present adulthood, you're carrying all that ancient wiring and childhood mapping. You're unconsciously searching for reassurance just to avoid that terrifying fear of emotional distance. Because of this deep wiring, you get this massive tug-of-war in your head. Your logical mind is sitting there saying, hey, it's just a delayed reply, it shouldn't matter this much. But your emotional reality? It interprets being emotionally unseen as disproportionately painful. Your body is basically sounding a primitive alarm bell, telling you that you're disconnected, and disconnection equals danger. Section 4. Craving emotional visibility. Knowing this, we really need to reframe how we view this whole craving for validation. Psychologically speaking, validation isn't actually about fishing for shallow compliments or wanting to be the center of attention. It's the quiet confirmation that your emotions, your identity, and your existence are acknowledged by another human being. It's simply the powerful feeling of someone saying, I see you. It's the core human need to know your existence makes sense to someone else. And here is the absolute crux of it. The nervous system remembers how unbearable emotional invisibility once felt. So when people are obsessively checking their notifications, they aren't addicted to the spotlight. They're just terrified of feeling emotionally invisible again. They crave visibility, not attention. This totally reframes those coping mechanisms we all misunderstand and judge ourselves for. We constantly check our phones because silence literally feels threatening. We overachieve and burn ourselves out because that external praise temporarily quiets our deep-seated self-doubt. And we become chronic people pleasers because somewhere along the line, approval was linked to our basic safety. We're not broken. We're just trying to feel safe. Section 5. The cycle of external validation. The real danger kicks in when we start relying solely on the outside world to provide that safety. Because external validation is always temporary. Relying on it traps you in this exhausting loop. First, you seek outside validation. Then you get it and experience this brief, amazing period of emotional relief. But then, naturally, the compliments fade. The attention shifts, so you return to a state of emotional emptiness. And the whole exhausting cycle has to start all over again. And the modern internet has absolutely poured fuel on this fire. We live in a world where our human worth feels like it's displayed in public numbers. We measure our visibility through likes and views, and we track our engagement through followers and replies. Everything about us is quantified now. When you can literally measure exactly how visible you are at any given second, a dangerous thing happens. Visibility becomes confused with value. It is so easy to start believing that your visibility dictates your actual worth as a person. So what happens when it goes quiet? The absence of attention begins to feel like undeniable proof of your unworthiness. A lack of response stops being just a neutral, everyday event and starts feeling like a deeply personal rejection.
Section 6. Existing without constant proof. So how do we find some peace when we are biologically wired to need connection, but completely drained by chasing it?
First off, let's give ourselves some grace. Validation is not evil. Wanting to feel seen is a perfectly healthy, normal human trait. Human beings are simply not designed to exist emotionally alone, and you shouldn't feel ashamed for wanting connection.
Real healing is slowly learning that your worth is not disappear in moments where nobody is actively reminding you of it. The true shift happens when you realize your fundamental value stays perfectly intact, even if you're standing completely alone in an empty room.
We have to actively teach our nervous systems a new truth. Silence is not always rejection. Being unnoticed does not make you insignificant. A quiet phone is really just a quiet phone. Your humanity exists beautifully without an audience there to applaud it.
Ultimately, the takeaway I want you to have from this explainer is this. You are never supposed to earn your right to feel worthy through constant emotional performance. You don't have to hustle for your emotional oxygen. You are already seen, and you are already worthy of being here, exactly as you are. So, let me leave you with this to think about. If you truly believed you didn't need anyone else's permission to exist, what would you stop doing today?